What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckman, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers leave week one, head into week two of training camp at St. Vincent College. Today is their off day, but still plenty to dive into. I am super excited for what's to come up in Latrobe this week as the pads come on, backs on backers, full contact. And to be honest with you, the first week of practice that really says something about this team and where they're going. But we're looking backwards for a minute before we look forwards. DJ Thomas Jones has an injury. Broderick Jones and his injury. What does that mean? Where do they go? We've got 7 winners from week one, and we're diving into what to look forward to in week two. It's a good one here in the Berg. It's been a good week up in good old St. Vincent College. Has your wife told you that you are too tan and you aren't allowed to be any tanner? Because last night as I laid in bed holding my wife's hand, she went, "Noah, you're really upsetting me with how white I look right now." And I took it as a compliment. Hope you're doing good, my friend.
Doing good. I don't ever have the trouble of getting too tan. I had a nice little let's call it like a victory stripe, I'm gonna refer to it as, on my neck collarbone area from where my lanyard was hanging with my credentials. So it wasn't really anything tan around it. It was mostly just a reddish hue amongst a just very clear white line, almost as if someone had laid painter's tape upon my shoulders. So I don't think I'm worrying about that too much. My apologies to the wifey on your end for you getting too tan, because you do tan a little bit better than me. I'll give you that. But yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm sorry that I left you. I felt bad that I wasn't up at camp with you over the weekend, because it seemed like so much was happening compared to the first few days. But heading into week two, I am excited, man. Pads are coming on tomorrow, and what more can you ask for as a football fan, as a Steelers fan, than to see some backs on backers, some dudes slapping each other with pads on? It's a good time. I'm excited.
Me too. I'm pretty fired up. It's all good. The weekend was a good time. We had some fun on the lives later in the day. And even, Sunday was the latest day I got home. I think I got home about just before 9:00, somewhere in that ballpark. And it was nuts as I sat there, because I was like, this is the last day of camp, or the last day of week one. And it was the wildest. And I think that that's just fitting for the Pittsburgh Steelers to say, we're here, we're ramped up, and we're heading into week two. Before we dive into everything, I want to give a quick shout out to our members and our super chatters. Make sure you're tossing your questions in the chat for the end of the show. We'll start with news and notes. DJ Thomas Jones went down yesterday. At the time, looked serious. Mike Tomlin said it was probably a significant injury. Now we learn that it looks like it's a torn Achilles. He'll miss the entire season. A guy that was set to make some sort of splash playing fullback and tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He received the highest signing bonus an undrafted free agent has ever received for the Steelers. I thought he looked good at times during minicamp and the first week of training camp. He's gone. Season's over. Does it just put more of a stamp on the tight end room and the fact that there really is no competition there?
Yeah, the only competition, quote unquote, remaining would be another rookie in JJ Galbraith. And he has been, I would say, similarly impressive as DJ Thomas Jones was through the first week of training camp, as well as in mini camp and OTAs as well. But when you look at the 3 players in front of him, and who, the top 3 on the depth chart that DJ Thomas Jones was scrapping for tight end snaps for, and Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington, there really is not a lot of room for competition. So it's nice to see, that there is depth beyond the top 3. It's clearly an exciting position for the Steelers, but yeah, there's no real competition here, which I don't really think is a bad thing. It can be more of a focus on how well this trio works together and getting the personnels right and getting, time to gel and form that chemistry. So it's tough for JJ Galbraith. It's a hugely devastating break for DJ Thomas Jones. Wish him the best and a speedy recovery. But yeah, the competition is all but zero in the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end room because of this.
Yeah, I agree. And Galbraith has looked really good. We'll get into the winners here in a minute, but it does kind of close the door on any real competition. While Galbraith has looked more impressive than DJ Thomas Jones, DJ Thomas Jones was the guy that could make the roster this season because of his flexibility. Now that comes to an end. You weren't here yesterday when Broderick went down with what looks like or what Mike Tomlin says is a soft tissue injury. Dylan Cook took over as the backup throughout the day after Calvin Anderson got benched rather quickly. He was out there for the first rep of 7 shots. After that was not around at all. I mean, what's your thoughts on Broderick getting hurt and Dylan Cook being the backup? I'll give you the floor here since you were here yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and look, this is exactly the worst case scenario coming to the doorstep a little bit sooner than I think any of us were hoping. A lot of us were hoping it would never come, but this is a nightmare situation being set up for the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Broderick Jones going down, not sure the extent of everything, the severity. Hopefully he's back soon, and I am just having a worrisome overreaction to this minor injury that happened yesterday. But this is something that you and I have talked about a ton the past couple of months. The offensive line, while it should be an anchor, should be a huge strength, it is the make or breaking point for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. And the thing that you and I have said consistently is they are really just one injury away, one severe injury away from being a, possibly mediocre offensive line. And to see one starter go down, one starter who was not even having the most convincing first few days of training camp at the left tackle position, to see him go down and to see the depth immediately challenged. And no disrespect to Dylan Cook, I'm fine with him being the extra tackle in certain packages. I'm fine with him stepping onto the field sometimes. But if you're going to tell me that he will be the starting left tackle in week 1 against the New York Jets, the expectations that we're slowly climbing into this more Super Bowl contender window, this ledge of being, one of the 6 to 8 teams, as Aaron Rodgers talked about, being the true Super Bowl contenders, it's impossible because your offensive line is extremely insufficient. So it's a worrisome thing to happen in the first few days of training camp. I'm trying not to hit the full-on panic meter. I'm trying not to walk myself off the edge here in worry, but it's hard not to whenever the depth is being tested so early and it's not promising. So I'm worried.
Do you think that it because yesterday my theory, the way I looked at this is that the positive side of it is the Steelers are reacting quickly to say Calvin Anderson doesn't look good. So where do we go from here? Do you think it opens the door for them to say Dylan Cook also doesn't look good? We need to go get somebody else before the end of training camp.
I think it has to. I'm eager to see how tomorrow goes. I hope that same pattern that happened on Sunday is replicated if Dylan Cook does not perform. And he might step into this, expanded role here, and he might perform beyond adequately. He might be amazing. Who knows? I don't want to totally write him off before even getting him the chance, but the Steelers cannot be complacent and they cannot be patient. They cannot even be a little bit okay with waiting. If Dylan Cook struggles immediately, I think it is a huge cry for help that they might need to look outside of the organization. I know we had talked about possible, trade scenarios, maybe some names that were out there, the few names that could be out there for the Steelers to have. It might become a more serious topic now, and it might be something that needs to move way up to the priority list if Dylan Cook struggles. So yeah, there has to be a very short leash here, and there can't be any patience surrounding it.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm hoping that our thought process is correct. But honestly, like the Steelers have been so aggressive this offseason that I have a feeling that it is, or at least it's very close to. Let's move away from some news and notes here. Let's dive into some winners. I wrote my story this morning. You can find it on si.com/NFL/Steelers of my 7 winners at Pittsburgh Steelers training camp in week 1. My list is pretty star-studded outside of one name, and that one name is pretty massive. I'll go through them, and then I'll give you the floor to react. It starts with the guy who showed up and made the biggest impact the Pittsburgh Steelers have seen since, well, the guy that they traded for to get him. Jalen Ramsey looks like an absolute animal on the field. It's not even close who the best player at Pittsburgh Steelers training camp was in week 1, it's Jalen Ramsey, and then it's a significant gap to anybody else. The dude looks absolutely incredible. He's fast. He's physical. He can cover anybody. He's going stride for stride with guys like Calvin Austin to make it seem like, hey, I haven't lost a step. I still got all the speed that I'm looking for. Without pads on, this guy looks every bit of an all-pro. The defense looks ridiculous around him because of it. And you could say, oh, the defense would have been good anyways. No, they wouldn't. If you replace Jalen Ramsey, start Beanie Bishop, and put Minkah Fitzpatrick deep instead of Juan Thornhill, your defense does not look anywhere near as good as it looks right now. There were questions about this trade. There were comments, and you looked at it and said Jalen is not the reason that the Steelers may have quote unquote won it, but it would be Jonnu Smith that pushed it over the edge. It's Jalen Ramsey, and it's not even close. This dude looks unbelievable. Again, he looks like the best player to show up in Pittsburgh since Minkah Fitzpatrick showed up in Pittsburgh. That's how good he is, and he's making everybody else around him, because you play man coverage, which is what the Steelers' plan is right now. We're manning everybody in the NFL. Joey Porter Jr. looks way better in man coverage. Darius Slay looks like a stud in man coverage. It lets Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson run with guys that there are no holes. There are no holes, and it forces a lot of quarterbacks to make crazy decisions. I'm very excited to see what happens, but Jalen Ramsey is hands down the biggest winner. Number 2 is the guy that replaced Minkah Fitzpatrick, and that is Juan Thornhill. There were questions about the safety position coming in here. The Steelers filled them. They said Juan is our starter and Chuck Clark is our backup. Chuck looks good running with the 4s, and he should look good running with the 4s because he's a 2. He's looking every bit of impressive. Juan Thornhill is not missing a step. He's coming up with plays. He's all over the ball. He's got a natural instinct on where to be, and if he could stay healthy, I think he looks like a starter. That was the question, is Juan Thornhill enough? Can the Pittsburgh Steelers trust Juan Thornhill to replace Minkah? The answer is yes. Juan Thornhill looks very impressive. The defense does not have a weak link. You don't see a weak link in Juan Thornhill. He looks like the dude who was the backbone for the Kansas City Chiefs defense when they won not 1 but 2 Super Bowls with them, which is very impressive. Number 3, we'll stick on defense here. Derek Harmon and Y.E. Black, we'll combine them both. Those 2 dudes are crazy. Derek Harmon looked like a freak all week long. It was insane how good Derek Harmon actually looks without pads on. Obviously, you have to put that little note in there, that little sign of caution, but Derek Harmon looks like an absolute animal for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it is crazy impressive how impressive he looks. He's getting into the backfield. He's batting balls down. You can't stop him. No matter who the offensive lineman is in front of him, you can't stop him. Y.E. Black turned it on this weekend, and it was crazy to watch. That dude looked magnificent. He was the guy that stood out the most on Saturday and Sunday. He batted multiple balls down. He was turning heads with his run coverage, with his ability to beat offensive linemen on the interior. The dude looks massive playing nose tackle, which is great for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he's got a much smaller role and a much less significance to the Steelers defense and how good they can be in 2025. But he looks good. He looks like the backup the Steelers have been looking for, like the future piece of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like early reaction, overreaction maybe, is you may not need to draft a defensive tackle in a year because Y.E. Black could be a nose tackle and you could feel pretty good about where your defense sits. That's how good he's looked this week. On the offensive side of the ball, Calvin Austin. And he didn't look crazy impressive. There were no moments where you went, Calvin Austin is a superstar. This is crazy. I can't believe how good he looks. But there were no moments when you question, is there a competition for wide receiver 2? Calvin Austin is wide receiver 2. The Pittsburgh Steelers are making that abundantly clear. If there is a second wideout out there, it's Calvin, and there is a significant gap between him and number 3, who is right now Roman Wilson. Calvin may not have one on the field, but he's certainly one in the depth chart because he is wide receiver 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And until that changes, it doesn't look like it's gonna. He looks like the guy the Steelers have a ton of faith in. On the offensive side, one more time, I'll give you a real big sleeper, and that is JJ Galbraith, who you want to know who the most impressive offensive player is so far at training camp? It's the fourth string tight end, the fifth string tight end out of, I don't even know where he is, South Dakota Mammoth or something. Duluth, I think it is Duluth. He's from Duluth. The dude is making plays. He catches everything. He's catching touchdowns. He's wide open all the time. If the Steelers didn't have four tight ends in front of him, he would be a guy that you'd look at and say, I don't know how he doesn't make this team right now. And maybe that changes with pads on, but he is the most impressive offensive player for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. The dude can't be stopped, and it's every day. Every day you are saying, there he is, 87's making another play. Doesn't stop. He is, without question, the biggest winner on offense performance-wise. And then I'll end it, excuse me, with this one. Corey Trice. Because we came in here and there was a few names in the cornerback room that you questioned if they were going to make the roster. Corey Trice was a guy that you felt pretty good was going to make the roster, but there was an argument to say he's got to prove himself. He's got to come out here and show that he could continue to take steps forward. Corey Trice looks crazy good, actually. Corey Trice is ripping balls away from guys like Jonnu Smith. He's making plays every single day in coverage. He looks physical. He looks way more natural in coverage than he did a year ago. To me, Corey Trice is the most impressive backup corner. Brandon Echols looks really good, but he is the most impressive backup corner on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. And you look at him right now and say, you're corner 5 for the Steelers, but they'll be able to utilize you some. But next year, when Darius Slay's gone, when you're looking for another outside option, maybe Corey Trice actually could take that job on, and you'd feel pretty confident about it because of the steps he's taken from year 2 to year 3. Those are my 7 guys: Jalen Ramsey, Juan Thornhill, Derek Harmon, Y.E. Black, Calvin Austin, J.J. Galbraith, and good old Corey Trice. I'll kind of give you the floor to react here to my winners of week 1.
I mean, the first thing and the most important thing here is Jalen Ramsey is an unbelievable addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And the intensity and the edge that he brings, the superstardom he brings, will be a difference maker from every day here forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. It's a huge upgrade, and it feels very much like when Minkah Fitzpatrick first arrived. It feels like there's finally that player who can be the difference maker that they've been looking for. So the list was a very comprehensive one. I think all of them stood out in multiple ways at different times over the first few days. I have some reservations, let's call it, about how much of an impact the rookies defensive tackle Y.E. Black will be once pads come on. Something that I am looking for is, there's a difficulty, and there is sort of an advantage for the defensive side of the ball before the pads come on. There is an advantage for the defensive lineman in passing situations. There's an advantage for, say, running backs getting through those holes at the line of scrimmage. So I'm very curious to see how Y.E. Black responds once the pads come on, once the offensive line starts to use a little bit more of their technique, a little bit more of that chippiness at the point of contact, to see if it's still if he's still creating that same sort of impact. I don't say that I'm skeptical about him as if I'm skeptical about what he will be in the future and how that will develop. I am just curious to see how that slight change in the environment, how that slight change that might benefit the offensive line a little bit, how he responds to that challenge. But overall, I think I agree 100% with the 7-8 players here that you listed. I think they all stood out at different times. Might I add one or two onto this list from my winners of the last week?
Certainly.
Incredible, thank you. The one defensive side of the ball that I would like to add is Dante Kent. I think I saw him show up multiple different ways. I saw him be an impact player from the very start, and I think it's been a really solid continuation of an impressiveness that Dante Kent has displayed since being drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was impressive in minicamp. He was impressive in rookie minicamp. He comes in, he has some nice passes defense, some nice passes blocked. I think he's going to be someone who just sticks around. I agree 100% with the impressiveness of Corey Trice. I think he's really taken a step over the past season from 2024 into 2025, and I think that really puts a damper on anything that Dante Kent does. That being said, I think the competition has just been very impressive in the secondary in general. So I think Dante Kent's going to stick around. He's going to keep giving the Steelers coaching staff reasons to consider. I don't think he's going to win out over someone like a Corey Trice in the end, but I think the fact that they will have to consider, what a very late round pick, a very recent late round pick is giving them all of this reason to consider. So I think he's someone that keeps catching my attention. I'm looking forward to seeing him with some pads on to see how that goes. Offensive side of the ball, I think I just want to give a shout out to Troy Fautanu. It's been some up and down parts of it, and again, I think that has a lot to do with the lack of pads being on. There's no doubting that this man looks healthy. He is strong as an ox, and I think that once the pads come on and we start to see him sort of going against the edge rushers here, we will start to see more and more of him. But I think the biggest win for me from the first week is the fact that he's there, he's healthy, and he looks like he is not the biggest question mark on the offensive line. So love to see a player coming back from a pretty devastating injury in his rookie season, and it seems like he has rebounded quite splendidly. So lots of winners, I think, so far from the first few days of Pittsburgh Steelers training camp, but those two specifically, I feel like, need to have some attention here.
Yeah, I love the Troy Fautanu. The Dante Kent thing, the reason I didn't have him in is because for some reason on Sunday, he got almost no snaps. And I don't know why he got almost no snaps. There were a couple of surprising names that got almost no snaps. Will Howard was one of them, was very limited in practice. You didn't know why. Dante Kent was another where I kept looking at it and going, Beanie's on the field way more than Dante Kent is, and I don't know what's going on here. Troy Fautanu, I agree with. He looked, and again, no pads on, but TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith they had impressive weeks, and they don't spend a whole ton of time on the field, but it looked like Troy was able to at least work with them. I'll tell a pretty cool story that I told yesterday. Troy was pretty speechless, actually, when asked about being able to put pads on tomorrow and what it meant to him and how excited he was, because it's been almost a year since he's been able to play actual football, and the recovery, how brutal it was to go through this. He just, again, was speechless in what he can do and how excited he is to go through it. So I agree with you. I'm excited to watch the offensive line and the defensive line. Once the pads come on, a lot of things change, and backs on backers take on tomorrow. So I'm pretty fired up for it. Let's dive into what we're looking for in week 2. I'll kind of let you start this one off. What are you looking for in week 2? Pads come on tomorrow. Obviously, backs on backers is a big one, but it'll be physical all week long. Steelers take the field on a week that we can actually judge guys like Derek Harmon and Y.E. Black and Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier and all these guys and say, remove the asterisks of, there are no pads on, but they look good, but they don't look good. What are you looking forward to once the pads come on in week 2?
I think the first thing that jumps out to me, obviously backs on backers, but it's all about what does Caleb Johnson do during this drill. He talked about wanting to show off that pass blocking ability over the weekend. I know Jaylen Warren gave him a little bit of advice of just trying to do your own thing. You were working on the fundamentals. Now let's put that to work in a very telling drill, a very revealing drill, and one that Coach Mike Tomlin is very much a fan of. So I'm very curious to see how he responds to it, how he performs in that drill. I have a suspicion that Tomlin is going to really challenge him and put the best against him to really see what he's made out of in that first couple of attempts at the drill. So that is the first thing I'm looking forward to. He's also been someone who has impressed over the first few days of training camp here for the Steelers. So if he's able to excel once the pads come on, stuff like this, I think, the skyrocket to him in terms of how much potential he has for this season and how much of an impact he could make on the Steelers offense, because he's really rounding into a very exciting player already. Beyond that, I think you have to flip it to the defensive side of the ball here, and it's all about backs on backers for me, at least for the
Yeah.
first day or two. I just want to see, what does Peyton Wilson do? I want to see Cole Holcomb trying to, I feel like he's been a little, they've had a little bit of a governor on him so far. He's been
Yep.
running with a lot of the twos. He's been running with a lot of caution, let's call it. And I think that's a good thing, but I want to see that come off a little bit. I want to see the leash get extended. And I want to see if we have this 2023 version of Cole Holcomb returning once the pads come on. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him specifically, how much he plays, how much they're using him, if they're resting him, and if that explosive athleticism that we've talked about a lot regarding Cole Holcomb is fully back in all of the game scenarios.
Yeah, I love the Cole Holcomb one. The Caleb Johnson, to me, he looks so impressive in week one, like crazy impressive in week one. The only reason that I didn't have him in my winners is because there are no pads on. It's really hard to judge a running back when you can't actually be tackled or really wrapped up by that means. It's kind of like a slap you and then let you keep running type of situation. And I don't know, like he looked really good running the football, but he also dropped a couple of passes that were really easy to catch. Doesn't look great in pass block. There are a lot that I'm looking for in week 2 to say Caleb Johnson's a dude, because there's a lot of conversation about, is Caleb going to be better than Jalen? I don't think that's going to be the case. I've stood pretty firm on that hill. And I think that's because Jalen catches the football really well. Jalen pass blocks really well. Caleb doesn't do any of those things really well. And yeah, you need to run the football well, but Jalen could also run the football well. So I need to see Caleb take that next step, become that star all around. I think you put the pads on, and I agree with you there. Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson are two names that for me, I can't agree with anymore. Like Cole Holcomb, I thought has looked pretty okay, but again, I want to see him tackle somebody. Him and Ryan McCollum got into a little bit of a scuffle yesterday, which was awesome to see. And you just saw the fire from Cole. But I want to see him hit somebody. I want to see Cole be back and be Cole, because he was good when, before the injury happened, before the devastating knee injury hit him. Cole Holcomb was the best linebacker the Pittsburgh Steelers had in a while, in some time. And you felt pretty good about the future of him at the position. I want to see it with the pads on since the return in a big day, Peyton Wilson's the same way. We all know he could run. We all know he could cover. He looks bigger. Can you hit somebody? Can you put your helmet down and be a run-stuffing linebacker when needed? Because that's what you need to be a 3-down linebacker. You have to be able to stuff the run as well as you could cover the pass. And I'm excited to see those things. My offensive one, Caleb Johnson is a good one, but I want to see these tight ends, man. I want to see these tight ends. I want to see, does Pat Freiermuth plow some guys over? Is Jonnu Smith able to run block at all? Because that's always been his biggest knock, is he can't block at all. Darnell Washington looks great without pads on, but it's easy to look great without pads on when you're 1.5 feet taller than anybody else that's defending you. How good does he look with the pads on? That's what I'm most excited to see here, is those tight ends. Who takes off? How good do they look? How physical are they? Because that's the Steelers' offense. We had so much to talk about in terms of the defense this week because of how fast and elusive and versatile they all looked. The offense is not built for big, giant splash plays. The offense is built for Aaron Rodgers to make meticulous throws over the middle of the field to his tight ends, and then guys like DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. Okay, well, when there are no pads on, you can't tell how explosive that play can turn into. You can't tell if DK catches a screen on the sideline and breaks a tackle and goes for 60 like he did on Sunday, because you don't know if that's a tackle or not. But I'm going to tell you that I'm not saying that Beanie Bishop is tackling DK Metcalf if it's one-on-one. I think DK goes for 60. I want to see that in person. I'm super excited to see the physicality of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and especially that tight end room. On defense, it's the guys that I talked about, the Y.E. Black and the Derek Harmon. And just to pin it down to one, Derek Harmon. I want to see Derek Harmon. This guy looks insane. He looks so much better than we thought he was going to look. He looks like a natural pro. He's out here kicking everybody's ass, and I want to see what happens when the pads come on, if that continues to happen, because we can't really judge it right now, but the day that he smokes Zach Frazier or Mason McCormick or Spencer Anderson or whoever on back-to-back-to-back plays, you're going, yeah, Derek Harmon's legit. And this defense is terrifying because we know TJ's terrifying. We know Alex Highsmith's terrifying. Jack Sawyer and Nick Herbig look good as well. Derek Harmon is the piece that I think defines how elite this entire defense can be. And with the pads on, I just want to see if it continues because it looks crazy good. And I have a hard time thinking it's not going to look crazy good in week 2. But only he can prove that right. And I'm excited to see if he does.
Wow. I mean, yeah, the excitement is palpable, I think, from everyone to put the pads on. I mean, the biggest question mark right now is, can the defense what's the encore for the defense after such an exciting first week at training camp? It seems like the expectations quickly have risen from being a really good unit to being a possibly elite top 3, top 5 unit. I think Derek Harmon is maybe the most vital piece of that sort of skyrocketing expectations because he has looked so unbelievably impressive. So agree with you 100%. Eager to see him going up against the offensive line with some pads on, with a little bit more pressure. Should be fun stuff for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for sure.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that's what we're looking for in week 2. With that said, it's time to start diving in to all your questions. Make sure you toss them in the chat. Once again, shout out our super chatters. Shout out to our members. We'll be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. One more time. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to our members. Can't thank you guys enough for how much you support us. With that said, let's start diving into it with one more shout out, this time to the Picnic Pack. Shout out Cole Slide, Berg fan. Shout out the Picnic Pack call in show on Wednesday. We have been promised a Picnic Pack call-in show on Wednesday. I'm super excited for it. Look, I've cleared my schedule on Wednesday morning. Okay, I've said I had 2 meetings. I'm not joking here. I had 2 meetings Wednesday morning before I left for camp. I told them both, hey, we're meeting on Thursday. We're meeting on Tuesday. Doesn't matter. I got something to do on Wednesday morning. That's how excited I am for this call-in show. I'm making time for you guys. I can't wait. I'm pumped. Make sure you call in. For everybody else, all of our members, make sure you're also calling into the call-in show. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good one. Maddie, Jacob, I have my terrible towel signed by the one and only CP84 if you want it. He was spotted in a jersey on the sidelines at the end of practice yesterday, but Mark Caboli says that he thinks he's going to get traded near the end of training camp. 6th round pick for Cordero Patterson. Do you think that's an outcome, or what do you think the most likely outcome for him is right now?
I genuinely, man, I don't want to start this week being a little snarky little guy.
Yeah.
So let's be a little bit more earnest here. I am surprised to hear that Caboli would say that there is trade value for him, but yeah, I think a 6th round pick, if someone wants to bring him in, I think the Steelers would be kind of foolish not to take that return for him. I am glad to see that he's on the field. Hopefully he's on the field more, participating with the pass coming on this week. Not sure what the expectation is or if we'll get any sort of update on that today or tomorrow, I should say. But I think that if there is a trade available for him, I think it would help the Steelers because, again, we've talked so often about where his role might be if there is one for him on the team. And with that still being a question mark, in training camp at this point, if you can get any sort of value for him, especially being an aging veteran, you probably have to take it. That being said, I mean, Maddie, I'll take the towel and I'd frame it and I'd put it right behind me here. So-
Look, and I think that the Steelers could probably get a 6th rounder for Cordero. I almost expect that to be the case. Somebody will make a move for him. Somebody will say, yeah, like whatever. We could use a versatile piece to join our offense. But I think more and more as it passes, his chances of making this team are almost zero. David Corso here. How many Steelers defenders make top 100 in 2026? This is a great question. Jalen Ramsey's on that list for sure. I think Deshaun Elliott's on that list for sure.
Ooh.
I would guess Joey Porter Jr. makes that list. You'd have to guess. First time ever in his NFL career. Obviously TJ. Obviously Cam Hayward. I don't know if Alex made it last year, but I have a feeling he can make it this year. Patrick Queen has been on there the last 2 years. Hard to say he's coming off of it at all. He'd have to drop pretty significantly.
Wow.
Maybe Darius Slay. Does Darius Slay make the list as well? Like, you got to think maybe, right?
That's crazy. That's
crazy
like 8
amount.
or 9 players.
That is 8 players that could potentially make the top 100 last year on the Steelers team. There are only 11 starters, and those 3 that aren't making it are Peyton Wilson, rookie Derek Harmon, and Juan Thornhill, who is the 11th out of the 11th on the defense. Do you have any other names? Those are my names, I think, that I would toss in there.
No, I mean, I think Darius Slay is a pretty easy one for me to write off. I think even if he has a good year, like his age will just sort of like transition him out of the top 100 for next year. I think Joey Porter Jr. can be a good one. I think Derek Harmon has a chance to rapidly shoot up there. Maybe more so than some of these other players you named. I do, maybe I'm just feeling incredibly hyped up after talking about him on this episode. But I think if there's really anyone who's up for, that meteoric rise for next year, Derek Harmon seems to be setting himself up mighty well for it.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Mike becoming a YouTube member. Can't thank you enough. Make sure you're calling into the call-in show. And another code one here, macaroni salad. Just resent the AST song I wrote to an AST email. Listen, you'll love it. We will listen to this actually exactly immediately after the podcast. This is our first to do. So shout out. Want to give one more shout out here. Good old Derek Bell in the chat this morning. Winners, Sharky's wings after Friday Night Lights. Derek, this better mean that you're there, my friend. This better mean that you're there. Miss you, my guy. Everybody go hit a quick subscribe on Steelers_DB. Does way better work than us. My guy.
Retweet.
My guy.
Retweet.
My guy. The Sharky's wings are Dino's wings, better for sure. Sharky's vibes, unmatched in the city of Latrobe. Maddie here. I think Jalen Ramsey has been the best offseason addition. For some reason, I have so much faith in him. Am I crazy? No, not at all. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is way better. I want to say is more improved than they've been in recent years compared to other offseason additions because of what Jalen Ramsey brings to everybody else. So you could say Jalen Ramsey is a freak of nature because he looks like a freak of nature, but you could also say that you could see the instant improvement in Joey Porter Jr., in guys like Deshaun Elliott, who doesn't have any pressure on him to do anything except for to play his position. You see the inside linebackers playing better. You see how quickly Aaron Rodgers has to get rid of the football because he understands that the rush is coming, but that nobody's open in the meantime. So I think it's everything he does around the Steelers that makes it wild with his improvement and how good he makes this defense.
Agreed 100%. Yeah, I think the fact that his presence has sort of erased the need and priority for, really putting Juan Thornhill under a microscope, for really seeing if there's any other need to get a starter. It really just made the addition of Chuck Clark that much easier for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make, because you have someone in Jalen Ramsey who makes everyone else better, who makes the defense just that much more intimidating. And from an offensive perspective, you are just that the game plan is that much more focused on Jalen Ramsey, and it gives the Steelers such a benefit because of it. And it allows other impact players, the other 8 starters that could be on the top 100 in the 2026 gives them that much more freedom to hopefully wreak havoc on the offense as well. So yeah, Maddie, I think you're spot on here, and I think the hype and the optimism surrounding Ramsey's arrival is warranted, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Carl Wardoff Salad Spackler here. Overreaction. Steelers defensive front, including the edge rushers, is the best unit in all of football. I do think there's an argument to be made that they have the best starting group in the NFL. Like Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton looks ripped and real quick. Derek Harmon already looks like a freak. Alex Highsmith, I think, is one of the most underrated guys in the NFL. I mean, it's hard to argue against it. The best in all of football. I don't know if it's an overreaction. I'd have to sit down and really look at everybody's unit, but I have a hard time sitting here and saying they aren't up there. They aren't considered a top 3 unit in football on paper, and then we just have to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think they truly are a top 3 defensive front right now. And once the season begins, all bets are off. I think it was our buddy Warren Sharp also listed them as a top 3 or top 5 defensive front. And I think it's just, you look at it on paper, there's no denying it. It's impressive. I won't call them the best in the league until I see some actual game action to back that up. But I mean, everything's there. All the pieces are there. All the tools are there. The expectations are there. They should be one of the top defensive fronts in 2025 for sure. My man, Waldorf Salad. Killing on a Monday morning.
Lindsay, are there any good offensive linemen left that the Steelers can get in free agency? And do you guys think they will get anyone? I don't know if there are, or if it's guaranteed that they're going to go out and get somebody right now. I'm pulling up the list as we sit here. I know I'm probably freaking out on the channel here, but that's all right. Positions, offensive tackle. Nope, not offensive line, offensive tackle. Those who are still available: Tyrone Smith, George Font, Andrus Peat. I kind of like that one, to be honest with you. Isaiah Wynn, I don't mind that one either. Raven Clark, Chris Hubbard, both options that, maybe they feel all right. Jermaine Ifedi, he played every position in Cleveland last year. You have to respect that one. George Font is the guy that, to me, is the guy I'd go with. Tyrone Smith is too old, in my opinion. George Font's right behind him, but there's a significant difference between 35 and 33. And then Andrus Peat at 31 years old, I could see that one as well. I don't feel terrible about that one. Those would be my guesses. Raven Clark has some experience here, so maybe. And then Jermaine Ifedi, again, I think has enough AFC North experience to feel good about it. If I had to guess, none of them are over the top impressive, but at the same time, I do think they're more impressive than the names that the Steelers have.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cook doesn't really inspire a lot of faith or competition amongst that list that you just rattled off there. But at the same time, man, I feel like it feels very similar to the conversations we've had about, bringing in a depth safety or bringing in another free agent wide receiver, where there's just so little that excites me about that group of players, whether it's the age or the fact that they've had to bounce around throughout the league, or they haven't found a steady position in one place wherever they have been. None of that really makes me feel very optimistic that they would come in here and solve the issue. They might feel like a Band-Aid on a bleeding wound or something like that, but I don't think that does anything to really solve the issue. And so I just have a hard time even entering into this thought experiment and picking, I guess I would pick maybe Ifedi based off of versatility, because that's something that I think I would like, but that doesn't feel like a strong pick. That doesn't feel like a solution to the problem. And it certainly doesn't feel like an upgrade over Dylan Cook or Broderick Jones or anything close to the sort. So yeah, it's a tough situation. I think if they truly want to improve it, they would have to expend some sort of assets in a trade to bring in somebody outside of the organization. But free agency just doesn't feel like the route to me at all.
I agree. The only problem I have with that is that you're not going to go out and trade for a starting left tackle. You're not, and to get a backup, you'd essentially be getting Raven Clark was the backup left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. So that's like that's what you're working with. There's most backup swing tackles aren't starters in the NFL. They're obviously not starters in the NFL. You just hope that you have a young one who can kind of hold his own, and the Steelers just don't have that. Because of that, I think their options are super limited. The bigger problem is that your starting left tackle is a question mark, and that brings more concern, but you're not going to go trade for somebody to replace him. You're going to go trade for somebody to be a backup. And it's really difficult to find a backup left tackle on an NFL team that is quality enough to say, hey, we're going to give up something for you. And at the same time, that team saying, yeah, we're going to give that guy up. No chance. Like, it's a really tough situation for the Steelers. You just kind of have to hope these guys work out. And I don't know. We'll see if they do. We'll see if they do. Ernie Jones question: do you guys think we are a Super Bowl team or a playoff team? I think playoff. And I heard Will Howard is outplaying the number 1 pick in the draft and Kenny Pickett from Cleveland. Any thoughts? I don't know if he's outplaying either of those guys. I don't pay attention to any other team whatsoever during training camp. My day is, and Jacob experienced that this week, you wake up, you shower, you go sweat and watch football. You come home at like 8 o'clock at night, and you are so physically exhausted that you say hi to your wife, you eat your second dinner, because it's all you do all the time is eat, and maybe get a good stretch in because you're hurting, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again. I know Kenny's down. He looks better. Will Howard looks better than Kenny did his rookie season. I'll say that. Will Howard definitely looks more comfortable than Kenny looked coming in here as a rookie. He's playing the third string, so I think it's a different situation when Kenny was, taking sometimes first team reps, sometimes second team reps. Will Howard looks more comfortable, but he's playing nobodies. I think that helps. I don't know if he looks better than Cam Ward. I have zero idea. Actually, to be honest, all the headlines I'm seeing is that Cam Ward's killing it at Titans camp. So I can't say that that's the case. Will Howard isn't killing it by no means. He looks comfortable. He looks like he's having a good time out there. The fans are having a blast watching him, which is cool to see. But I don't think he's this big star-studded guy that's taken over training camp. We'll see if that continues, but I do see how comfortable he is, and that was not the case with Kenny Pickett, who's the only guy I could talk to on the other side of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Howard said it himself, he's having fun, and I think the way that the Steelers fans have embraced him in this first training camp is noticeable, and I think that's having an impact on the way he's performing in training camp. I have not paid much attention to the Cleveland Browns on purpose. I just like to say my piece about them and be my snarky guy about them without even checking in on them. So that's just on me. But yeah, he's very much outperforming Kenny Pickett. Can say that with certainty. I have not seen anything about the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward. I'm a fan of Cam Ward coming out of the draft, so I would be surprised if there's a lot of media surrounding Cam Ward underperforming in his first training camp. I imagine there's going to be a lot of the opposite as well. But yeah, I think it's hard to compare Will Howard, who's certainly being treated like a top pick in terms of his reception by the crowd and by the Steelers fan base, like a Cam Ward. But to say he's outperforming, I can't say that for sure right now. But there's a lot to like about what Will Howard has done so far in the first few days of training camp. So I'll certainly say that, Ernie.
Yeah, I agree. Pittsburgh Hornets, if they do pull the trigger on getting another offensive tackle, when do you expect it to be? I think it comes in the next week or two. I truly do. I think they'll get a pretty quick look at Dylan Cook this week as Broderick Jones misses time with his soft tissue injury. They're not going to rush Broderick Jones back onto the field after last year missing time with an injury as well. I think that if Dylan looks good, there are no worries. If Dylan does not look good, there are worries, and you go out and you maybe sign somebody because you have cap space, and whoever you sign is going to come for a vet minimum anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But I think this week is a big week, and if it doesn't look good, I think the Steelers could move quicker just to say, we got to get this guy in the mix. We have to have some competition, because that's the thing. You sign any of these guys, they're not coming here to be a starter, but they're also not coming here to guarantee themselves a roster spot. They have to make a place for themselves. They have to earn that spot. I could see the end of this week being, all right, Dylan looks bad. Calvin Anderson looks terrible. it's really time to make a move here and going out to get somebody. Do you feel differently?
No, I really don't see a scenario where Dylan Cook impresses that much that it erases the option to find outside help. Unless he looks, Dylan Cook would have to look pretty good, and the outlook on Broderick Jones would have to become very optimistic, and the return window would have to shrink or something like that in order to erase the need for more offensive tackle help. So I agree with you in terms of the timeline. It will happen quickly, and I feel very confident that, Dylan Cook will not perform like a starting level left tackle, and that will only further necessitate the need to bring in outside help. I'd love to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I don't really see this going any other way, but we'll see tomorrow and in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Marlon Lewis here. If you could cast any former or current Steeler in Happy Gilmore 3, if there is one, who would it be? It's Pat Freiermuth. It would be Pat Freiermuth.
Ooh.
Aaron Rodgers would be a good one. Former Steelers, there's a billion of them. Troy Polamalu would be fantastic. James Harrison would be hilarious.
Yeah.
There's some good ones out there for sure. Current Steelers, it's Pat Freiermuth. The guy's hilarious. You know what I mean? He's actually, I'll tell you a story and I told this yesterday. I'll tell it again for those who weren't on the show. Jalen Ramsey pushed Pat Freiermuth yesterday, like to get chippy, and he really shoved him. And it was the first time I looked at whoever was standing next to me, and I said, I think that's the first time Jalen's ever shoved somebody who genuinely doesn't give a shit. Because Pat was literally like, whatever. Because he probably just made some joke and walked away. That's who Pat is. He's hilarious. He is the class clown. It's so funny, actually. He's also like one of the hardest workers on the team, which is good to see. But he's a dude. He's as easy going as it comes. I think it would be Pat. In the past, I think it'd be Troy and James.
Debo is just, he would have been such a good one of the good like maxi league golfers in Happy Gilmore 2. I don't know if you watched it since it came out, but so spoiler alert, Jacob did.
I have not watched it. I'm trying not to read the live chat because I want to watch it. Haven't had time to watch it, and there's some conversation going on in the live right now that I'm trying to avoid.
Okay, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I've heard
dive
both.
Into it.
I've heard it's trash, and I've heard it's really good. I've heard both sides of the. It's honestly, there's nobody that's like, yeah, it's pretty decent. Everybody's like, this is fantastic, or this is the worst movie of all time. I've only heard both sides of it. But we'll see.
Here's your middle of the road take. It was fine.
I'm cool with
Happy Gilmore is like iconic. It's a monumental comedy. It was never going to live up to that in my mind. But
no.
Was it the worst thing I've ever laid eyes upon? No. Guys, we gotta watch.
I'm not a sequel guy. I'm never a sequel guy.
Sequels are worse.
Sequels are always worse. Just make new movies, but we love sequels, man. We're a sequel country for sure. Antipasta, how does Peyton Wilson look so far? I think he has a chance to quietly become one of the best middle linebackers in the league. Do you agree? I don't know if he quietly has the opportunity to become one of the best middle linebackers in the league this season. I do think he's looked fast, and he looks bigger. He definitely looks bigger. We have to see the pads come on before middle linebackers do literally anything. They cover running backs in the flat and tight ends. That's all they do during practice right now. You can't really make plays. I will say Peyton would have had a sack on one play yesterday that I thought looked really impressive against Aaron Rodgers. He kind of went to the outside, realized there was nobody there, quickly came to the inside and just sat there because he knew he would have just destroyed Aaron Rodgers. But once the pads come on, he's there. He looks bigger. That's a big up for me. We'll see what happens come Tuesday when the pads they do come out. Coast Golf
certainly won't be quiet. Go ahead. No. Sorry to interrupt. There's nothing quiet about Peyton Wilson's ascension in my mind. I mean, he's made it very clear that he expects that out of himself, and I think the Steelers are putting him in a position to accomplish that if he does achieve what they set out to achieve in 2025. So nothing quiet about it if all goes well for Peyton Wilson this season.
Yeah, for sure. No Coast Golf here. I may have missed it, but how does Sebastian Castro look this week? I honestly didn't think he looked bad. I thought he was all over the football, and times he was out there, but he only plays with the third and the fourth string. That's it. Once Chuck Clark showed up, his spot almost got eliminated. So I don't know what's to come of Sebastian Castro, but I don't think he looks terrible. I'm excited to see what happens with pads on. I'm more excited to see what happens in preseason because he's going to have to make some plays to kind of turn some heads. But he's good in coverage. He's surprisingly good in coverage. He plays well close to the box. I feel like Sebastian's hasn't looked bad. He's looked kind of impressive. The problem is I don't think he has a roster spot to gain. But I don't think he looks bad at all whatsoever.
No, I agree. I don't think he has looked bad at all. I think he's looked like someone who's really giving the Steelers, a lot to think about. I just think the secondary depth has transformed a ton this season. And I think because of that, there's just such an uphill climb for him, especially being an undrafted free agent. But I think it's not because he has performed poorly or that he has performed, like just a regular grunt working sort of undrafted free agent. He's performed well above expectations, I would say. It's just that he still has such an uphill climb despite playing well over the first week of training camp.
Yeah. Carl Wardoff, Salad Spackler here. What's more likely, Caleb out snaps Warren on the year or John, who has more receiving yards than Pat Freiermuth? I would say what's more likely is John, who has more receiving yards than Pat. I don't think that's going to be the case. Honestly, John, who did not look good yesterday. He had 2 drops in individual drills, which is like, you should never drop the football in individual drills. Hasn't really made a play that stood out to me all weekend long. I'm still very high on Jonnu Smith. I just don't think he's looked very good. Pat, I think, is going to be that guy. Like, I think Pat is going to be the dude Aaron Rodgers loves by the end of the season. I think he's going to be his second favorite target outside of DK. So I'm going Pat over. But what's more likely here? I don't think Caleb outsnaps Jalen. I don't think it makes sense for Caleb to outsnap Jalen. He can't catch the football as well as Jalen, and he can't block nearly as well as Jalen. Those are 2 aspects of the game you need Jalen on the field for. You're not going to be third down and say, Caleb Johnson, 3rd and 6, Caleb Johnson, go on the field. You can't do that right now because he's more of a liability than he is an asset. Until that gets figured out, you have to put Jalen on for those snaps. So I don't even think it's a question if Jalen or Caleb's going to get out snapped. I think Jalen's going to win that one. It's a Jonnu versus Muth in my eyes. And I choose Muth, but what's more likely here? I'd go Jonnu.
Oh, 100% Jonnu. I think it's very likely that Jonnu Smith ends up out receiving Pat Freiermuth. I think it is entirely not possible for Caleb Johnson to outsnap Jalen Warren this season. I think because of specifically the reasons that you have already said here. Jalen Warren is the proven commodity. He does the things that the Steelers need the offense to do, like pass blocking, markedly well than Caleb Johnson. And as a rookie, Caleb Johnson should have to prove those things first. He shouldn't just be given, more snaps because he is such an explosive athlete, because he is so exciting to watch with the ball in his hands. Those are all incredible traits. The potential is undeniable, but Jalen Warren is the starter for the reasons that Noah already mentioned here. He does all of the little things so well, and he continues to be overlooked when it comes to those things. And because of that, he will be on the field more in 2025. That's one part. And I think Jonnu Smith, I love Pat Freiermuth. I've talked about him being a 1,000-yard tight end in the NFL. I have a very strong belief in him, but I just can't shake the suspicion that Jonnu Smith was brought in to be heavily featured in the offense and heavily featured in what Arthur Smith wants to do to be quote unquote successful. And because of that, I think it is very possible that Jonnu Smith is the higher receiving tight end by the end of the 2025 season.
Yes, I agree. Couple here. Jacob, Fantastic Four was, dare I say it, fantastic, which I hope everybody go see Fantastic Four. I will not, but shout out, guys.
I did go see it, and it was fantastic. I was very pleased as a lifelong Fantastic Four comic book reader. Was very pleased with it. Yeah,
very good. Maddie, here one more. Do you think that Tomlin has let go of the reins and let Smith design the offense to what he likes? Does that help the offense at all? I mean, it obviously helps the offense if Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, has control of the offense and not the defensive-minded head coach. But I think this is a very Aaron Rodgers heavy offense. I obviously think Arthur Smith has his control of it. It's his game plan. But I think Kim and Aaron Rodgers are working hand in hand to build this thing, because that's what good offensive coordinators do. But I think Aaron Rodgers has a heavy hand in what he's looking to do and where he's looking to put the football and everything else. And Arthur Smith's just kind of filling in the blanks. But I do think it's very helpful for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and I think Arthur Smith, like, I think it's helpful. I'm just not sure if I trust Arthur Smith more than Tomlin right now. I think there's so much to prove. I think Arthur Smith is in a very good position to have a better offense. I like that Tomlin is perhaps enlisting more trust and passing off more trust to his coordinators, as he should. He should be a little bit better at delegating, and I think that's a fair criticism to make against Mike Tomlin. But at the same time, I think Arthur Smith has so much to prove as a coordinator, and he's obviously coaching and trying to become a head coach again himself. But since that, Tennessee Titans offense that he had Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry at, we've watched a lot of offenses try to emulate that without success. Yep. So I'm open to Arthur Smith's input being greater. I'm open to him trying new things to get the Steelers offense going, because it's been so stagnant over the past couple of years, but it has to be Aaron Rodgers' input being just as valuable as Arthur Smith, whether Mike Tomlin likes it or not. And I think that is the way forward. If it's solely to let Arthur Smith work his magic, quote unquote, we're going to be looking at another 9-win season anyways. So it doesn't, it's part of it, but it's not just about the Arthur Smith magic, because the Arthur Smith magic isn't anything more than just what the Steelers have done over the past couple of years.
Yep. Pittsburgh Hornets, how much cap space would the Steelers have for a tackle, and who would fall into that? Anybody would fall into it. They're not going to add anybody that costs any money. Whoever they sign would come for a league minimum, maybe like $2 or $3 million max. But nothing more than that. They have roughly like $23 million in available cap space, I believe, after the TJ deal, which is pretty good. They're going to want to bring $10 million into the season, so they have $13 million to spend. Where they spend it, we'll see. Wide receivers cost money. Offensive tackles maybe cost some money. And I don't know what Chuck Clark signed for, so obviously he'll play a factor into that as well. But they have about $23 million, and they'll carry about $10 million into the season, as they do every single season. So where they go from there, I mean, only time will tell. Good old Watergate salad. What does the picnic pack mean? The picnic pack is a group formed in the live chat. Shout out to the members who you seem to be a part of with the Watergate salad. I don't know how it started, but I'm very grateful that it did. I'm very, very grateful that it did. Pittsburgh Hornets. What is the worst comedy movie you've ever seen? Does The Room count?
Do you say The Room?
Is it called The Room?
The one that Brie Larson won an Oscar for?
Yeah, where he filmed it by himself.
Oh, you're talking about like the Tommy Wiseau film where he's like, I did not hit there, Mark.
Yes,
yeah. No, that's that.
But that's the greatest movie ever, but also the worst movie ever. It's like a thing. I actually, maybe you were telling me this. Somebody was telling me that every year they watch that movie. Like it's the only movie that they watch on a yearly basis.
That's incredible. That is objectively the worst
movie ever.
Like the worst put together film, start to finish. Everything was bad. Worst film I think I've ever watched that was done. Like the thing about the Room or whatever that movie's actually called is like everyone else knew it wasn't serious besides Tommy Wiseau. I want to expand this out to projects where everyone thought they were really doing the thing. And I want to just really call attention to when the era after scary movies started getting like really popular in the early 2000s and everything became a spoof movie. Like, did you ever see like Disaster Movie or like, like, superhero or like hero movie or something
superhero
like
movie? It was called the superhero movie, which is hilarious, but also
objectively awful. Like, and they were just like, they jumped the shark so hard after Scary Movie like 1 and 2 and the 3 were just like hilarious, and then they were just like, you know what, we're gonna make it even worse, and we won't have a single plot, and we'll get people no one knows and besides Drake Bell, and then we'll just crush it.
besides Drake Bell. Shout out to Drake Bell, man. That superhero movie is hilarious. Is for
Hilarious.
sure hilarious. All right, got a couple of housekeeping things. Dalton, when do you upload the podcast to Spotify? We upload the podcast audio pretty shortly after the podcast is done. I think on like Friday I didn't upload it because I sat there for a half hour waiting for it to upload, and I said I need to go home. This needs to end. So outside of that one, we usually upload it immediately after the podcast. It should be there most days. Yesterday's wasn't on there just because it was rather short and it was a lot of Q&A, so figured that was better for YouTube. But the Monday through Fridays will always be on Spotify shortly after the pod ends. Papaya salad. What's your favorite salad? Tossed? Easily, dude. And a Caesar salad gets me every single time. Single time. Broderick seems to always have injuries. Is it caused by conditioning? This one's actually no, because Broderick said he's in the best shape he's ever been in. And he looks skinny. He looks so skinny, actually. So I don't think it's conditioning. I mean, the elbow thing last year couldn't have been conditioning. That was a weird hit. We all saw it happen. Like it was just an extension of the arm that looked weird when it happened. And he was never the same from it. So I don't think that's the case. Soft tissue injuries are there. A lot of them have to do with the heat. I mean, when it's 95, 100 degrees every single day and you're practicing for 3 hours, like these things are going to happen. So I don't even blame this on Broderick. I honestly blame it on the fact that the Steelers are practicing in 100-degree heat day after day after day, and they're physical in these practices. It's going to lead to these things. It's just a matter of avoiding the important guys, and this one it didn't avoid.
I'm not a scientist, right? But like I just have like I think we can all agree that these athletes who put themselves to the absolute physical limit on a daily basis and have like sort of stretched beyond the imagination of what is possible athletically and just like for the physical human body, like I become less and less surprised when these like soft tissue injuries pop up more and more, because like athletes today, like they push themselves so hard and they have such a knowledge and like so many resources and ways to do that and to continue to push the envelope, that like these huge people, like maybe they're just not meant to be doing all this stuff all the time, you know.
Yes.
And these soft tissue injuries pop up for someone like Broderick Jones, who is in the best shape of his life. Like can confirm that for sure. But like he's still a massive human doing these incredibly quick, twitchy, reflexive sort of movements that are very tough on the body. So I just think it might not be indicative of him being like injury prone. I just think it's just these athletes are just putting themselves in harm's way constantly, and this is what happens. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's just like a crazy take to have, but I feel like that's scientist Jake's putting his hat on there.
I agree with you, though. I just don't think that how hot it is, the Pittsburgh Steelers should be pushing the way that they are. Start, bench, cut, Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, grown-ups. I think it goes right in this order. I think it's Happy Gilmore. Big grown-ups is fantastic, but it's just not as legendary as Big Daddy, you know? So I would just say Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, grown-ups. I'd go in that order.
Yeah, I'll just switch Big Daddy and Happy Gilmore just for a personal preference, because I just always will quote the line, "You're mad at your dad, not me. I forgive you." Anytime. Like, so I like to use that one a lot. But yeah, hard to cut grown-ups, because that is
It's
funny.
a great movie.
One of the rare, very funny post 2005 movies from, you know, the Adam Sandler era. You know?
Yes,
so.
I agree. Tortellini salad. Is there anything else you're looking forward to besides backs on backers? I mean, the one-on-one matchups with the corners and the wide receivers is always good. I'll ask you, what's the matchup you're looking for backs on backers, and the matchup you're looking for in corners versus wide receivers?
I mean, it's got to be Jalen Ramsey going against DK Metcalf in any sort of one-on-one setting. Joey Porter Jr. against DK Metcalf for sure. It's any of those top corners going against DK Metcalf, because that's, you know, iron sharpens iron, to use, you know, a Tomlinism there. And I think that is the best way to see what's going on with the secondary as well. Backs on backers, I think Caleb Johnson versus Cole Holcomb. I'm pumped to see Jalen Warren going against Peyton Wilson for the first time in those first few reps, and to see who wins and then who gets to run it back immediately after. I think that's going to be a really fun one. And then something entirely outside of backs on backers and wide receivers on corners, and that one-on-one position battle is, does the punting competition continue to be one of the most entertaining parts of this training camp? I said it a little bit last week, and I know it's not a very flashy part of the game at all, but to watch Cameron Johnston and Corliss Waitman go at it with just these booming punts has been an incredible part of training camp, and I'm excited to see if this becomes a really like full-fledged competition in one of the, you know, unlikeliest positions for a competition to catch Steelers fans' attention.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the punting competition. It's awesome. Jalen versus DK is the easy one. To be honest, though, I want to see Roman. I want to see Roman one-on-ones versus these good guys. Can you beat Joey Porter? Can you beat Darius Slay? I don't trust that he can. Can you prove me wrong? And backs on backers, I honestly want to see Darnell versus Jack Sawyer. I think Jack Sawyer looks massive. Like massive. He looks so big. And you put Darnell back there. I'm so excited to see what those two can do. Backs on backers is not always just backs on backers. It's sometimes tight ends on backers, and it gets physical. So those would be the two I'm looking for in the punting competition. I mean, for sure. For sure. Duranimal, what's going on with Connor Hayward? Didn't hear a lot about him these days. He's not really doing much. None of the tight ends are. He's still the tight end 4. He's going to make the team. But he's not really doing a whole ton. Sometimes he looks like he makes some good catches. His route running's still great, but it's just been a quiet week for Connor Hayward. Keeping it trucking. Marlon Lewis, because of the Slay Ramsey, etc., could Cam Hayward break his streak of fighting at camp? 0 chance on this one. Cam will fight somebody for sure, without question. Cam will fight somebody. It will happen. And then we'll finish it off with Victor here. Hey, so I'm choosing one home game this year. I was thinking the season opener. Also, good bars to go when visiting. I'm from Philly, by the way. Shout out to Philly. Although everybody from Pittsburgh hates that. I'm from Scranton, so Philly was my first city. Bars to go to near the... It kind of depends on the vibe you're going for. If you're going for like a club scene, you want to party a little bit, the Little Red Corvette by the stadium is unmatched. That place is fantastic. It's 90s music the whole time, and it's like you can't beat it. You can't beat it. They got the music videos playing on the boards. There's one dude that's in there every single time I go in there who's hilarious. Little Red Corvette would be my go-to. If you're going for like a dive bar by the stadium, Mike's Beer Bar is also great. That dude, first off, the dude is awesome. He's an incredible person. And I think there's like 250 beers on tap or something like that. So if you're by the stadium, those are my go-to. If you're outside, go to the Strip, dude, and just find a random bar in the Strip and have a good time. But Mike's Beer Bar and Little Red Corvette, those would be the two I'd send you to for sure. You got any additions to that one?
Nah, man, I'm the worst person to ask about like bar recommendations because I just am never at one. So there's a ton of cool spots. I know my friends like go into a lot of places. I'll give a shout out to a bar that just because I know the people who run it and I love them, but Cork Harbor in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
That's a great spot. But if you're going to a Steelers game, might not be the easiest place to get to.
Yeah, Lawrenceville's tough. Lawrence, Mike's Beer Bar beforehand, a Little Red Corvette when you're down to celebrate a win afterwards. That's the recommendation I say on the North Shore. With that said, guys, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We'll be back tomorrow once again live from Steelers training camp. Super excited for what week 2 has to offer and everything with the pads on that we will watch and see and bring it to you guys. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg.